This morning, discussions continue in Hartford over how to close a projected school budget gap of more than $70 million over the next 2 years. School leaders making their case for why the district needs tens of millions in funding. While the state is conducting an audit, the district, they're kind of reporting different things. Your reporter Taylor Knight live in studio with the latest in this budget battle. Good morning, Taylor.
Good morning, Kate. The district says that it expects to lose about $16 million in revenue because of federal funding cuts and a decrease in state grants. At the same time, expenses are projected to go up. And meanwhile, the state is moving forward with a financial audit of the district. Hartford School Superintendent Dr. Andre Townsell spoke about the budget in a virtual workshop yesterday. He said the district's budget is $200 million lower than it was 10 years ago, and they can't afford to make any more cuts. He's calling on the state to provide more funding. The district is asking the state to cover transportation costs for students who live in Hartford but attend school outside of the district. But the State Board of Education is auditing the district right now. Last week, the state said that the district had a surplus, but school officials said last night that the state is now referring to it as a potential deficit. The district will hold a public hearing at next Tuesday's board meeting where residents can sign up to speak. Then the following day, the district leaders will bring that same budget proposal to the city council. Your reporter live in studio, Taylor Knight, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.
Taylor, thank you.